Rev up your engines!
Toyota Land Cruiser is going hybrid. They're going to be selling hybrid ones now. That only follows a logical progression because people that like the Land Cruisers, they can run forever. There's like a cult following. And now, these days, it's a cult following. They have a lot of money. When I was a younger mechanic, they were kind of a cult following, and they weren't super expensive. They realized those are tremendous gas hogs. They always have been, regardless of what engine was in. So they're trying to do something to make it get better gas mileage. Now, they're losing a few horsepower. It's still over 300 horsepower with the electric motors, but it's going to be lower than the original engine. I guess Toyota is using this to see if they can revive the Land Cruiser because in the United States, 2018, they only sold 3,000 of them. And 2019, they sold 4,000 of them. So it's a very small market now. I guess eventually Americans realized, do you really want to drive something that gets this horrendous gas mileage? Because they really do get horrible gas mileage. You can do rating schmading, but all my customers with them, if they drive here in Houston and stop and go city traffic, I mean, every single one of them gets well below 10 miles a gallon driving them like that. So it's going to be their change to try to make their Land Cruiser to be more acceptable, that it'll get somewhat better gas mileage. It's still going to be a big, bulky vehicle. They're not scaling it down. And they're not really redesigning the body or anything. It's so big and boxy, it's never going to be very aerodynamic. But putting hybrids in it at least will give it a chance to have a bit longer lifespan. Who knows? Maybe they'll end up doing like what GM's talking about the Hummer. Maybe they'll end up going totally electric with this thing as time goes on. But they're pushing the hybrid ones now. That's what their big models are going to be. But like I said, they only sold 4,000 of them last year. So this isn't really a big move for Toyota. They're not selling all that many of them. So afford to experiment with something that they don't sell a lot of. It'd be a lot different deal if they were experimenting radically with, say, the Camry, their big seller, than with something that they only sold 4,000 in the United States last year. Now, here's some interesting information. I've had customers in the past say, I want to get a Jeep. They're big, safe vehicles. Well, let's take one particular Jeep, the Jeep Wrangler. Are they really safe? Well, the European test of them give them a 1 safety rating out of 5. Now, the American safety ratings are a little bit higher because the Europeans take in a lot of stuff that we don't. In their safety thing, they also include the safety of pedestrians if they get hit by a Jeep, which is not part of the American system that tests them. Even in the American system, the Jeep Wrangler was relatively low. What you have to understand is they're pretty boxy vehicles. They will tip over if you drive them too fast. And generally, people buy them with the bigger engines, not the smaller engines. So they will have a tendency of toppling over and rolling because of people driving them at a higher speed. You also have to understand their market. They're marketing a lot of these things towards younger people, because it's that image of the Jeep top down and the windows roll down. You might even buy a Jeep that doesn't even have real doors on the side. It's got just the canvas doors. They aren't all that safe vehicles. They have this image of you looking at this thing, it's big, you think it's strong. But in terms of real safety, they're not that safe vehicles. So don't think you can go out and buy one and you're getting a safe vehicle. If you want a safer vehicle for a younger kid, get a vehicle that's lower to the ground. The lower to the ground they are, the less likely they're going to tip and flip over. One of the biggest problems with young people are they're cornering too fast, they're driving fast, they'll lose it and they'll spin over. Overall bulk and size doesn't mean what it used to mean because of all the airbags and safety stuff that are in cars. Just pure brute size isn't the numero uno safety thing. When I was young, people would say, I'm getting this big Ford, this big Chevy in the 60s because it's got a lot of metal around me to save me. And back in those days, yeah, that was true to a certain extent. But today, with crumple zones and everything, the cars crush instead of you when they get in wrecks. The idea of somebody buying a Jeep Wrangler for safety? Big mistake there. Blackword 30 says, my 2016 Silverado with a 6-speed will shift hard from second to third gear. The rest shifts smooth. What do you think's wrong? Well, they do have shift solenoids inside the transmission, and they do have a tendency of wearing out. That one's 4 years old, but you didn't say the mileage. If it's higher mileage, they can wear out. If you're a gambling man, you go ahead and drop the pan, change the solenoids out, try it yourself. But still, that's a reasonable amount of work, and the solenoid packs aren't that cheap. You're better off finding a guy like me who has a deal of a scan tool. We can drive it down the road. Well, actually, we wouldn't drive it because we're going to be testing with a bidirectional scan tool. So while somebody else is driving the car, we sit there and we can play with the bidirectional scan tool. And we can actually test the solenoids, turn them on, turn them off, see how they react, and also with the scan tool, see if there's any codes. Because if there's a code for the solenoid, then we'd say, okay, we'll road test to check it, and yeah, it's not working right, and then we'd replace the solenoid, rather than just guessing. But if you don't want to deal with all the rigmarole, paying a mechanic to do all that, you You can gamble with the solenoid. Sometimes it works. It's better to test, though. Mick Boy says, Scotty, I just bought a 2003 Toyota Matrix with a manual transmission with 166,000 miles for a mechanic for $1,500. This is a good deal. Well, if it's never been wrecked or flooded, that's a really good deal. They can last a long time. I've seen them with 350,000 miles on them, and that's a manual transmission. I got a 2007. It still shifts like a dream. But a standard transmission is so bulletproof, they'll easily go a million miles. If that thing runs good now, and it brakes and handles good, you got a really good deal. Pay only that amount of money for it. Hope that it wasn't in a flood or something, and then sometimes months or years later it all goes nuts because it was underwater. That's the one thing you got to worry about, getting a used car for lower prices. Maybe they're selling it because it was in a flood or something. Hopefully you got a clean title. Look at the title and pray it doesn't say reconditioned or salvaged title on the back. Chandyman1364 says, Scotty, first time asking you. I'll try my best. I'm interested in buying a 2015 Dodge Dart 2.4 XST. Don't buy it. Those are after Fiat and Chrysler merged. It's got a Fiat engine. Piece of Italian junk. Do not buy that car. They're horrible cars. I actually rented one time because, hey, I want to tell you guys the truth about stuff, right? So when I fly places, I see what cars are available at the rental at the airport, and I always pick a different one just to see how the things run, right? Well, I rented one of those a few years ago. What a pile of junk that thing was. Now, I do have to say, it got good gas mileage. And since the only thing I was buying was gasoline for it, it was okay for my purposes. But I could tell how cheaply made that thing was. With all that Italian technology, do not buy one of those Dodge Darts. They have absolutely nothing to do with the stuff that they made in the 70s, the Dodge Darts that people like, that are collector's items now. The only similarity is they had the same name, Dodge Dart. Other than that, they have nothing to do with the good Dodge Darts. So don't buy that thing. Steven Navarro says, if my oxygen sensor, bank 1 sensor 1 is faulty, can I run my car with the MAP sensor disconnected and the O2 sensor disconnected? You can do whatever you want. It's your car. This is America. We don't have the thought police on us yet. Realize that your whole car is based on the MAP sensor telling the computer how much air is coming in, and the oxygen sensor telling you how much residual oxygen is left, so if the engine's running rich or lean. Now, if you were in a pinch and you had to go because the zombies were coming after you in the middle of the desert and you unplugged everything and it ran, go right ahead. But your computer does have backup software, and when those things are disconnected, it guesses. And it can guess halfway decently, so it can run okay. But in the long run, it would either run too rich or too lean. It would cause problems in the vehicle. It would ruin the catalytic converter. I mean, eventually it would do a lot of damage. But in a pinch, if you had to, you could do it. But it's not going to fix anything. You couldn't drive in a long period like that because it would cause ancillary damage doing it that way. Teresa B says, is it bad to drive with a bad EVAP charcoal canister? It's supposed to filter the pollution from hydrocarbons in your gas tank from evaporating gasoline before it reaches the air. And they can go bad. Now, they can go bad in different ways. If they go bad and they break open, then you're getting fumes come out all the time. And they smell, which, might give you a headache, but they're actually venting gasoline vapor. And that's dangerous because if somebody's walking by your car smoking a cigarette and throws the butt and there's gas fumes. Now, on the other hand, if you don't smell anything, but you get a code for bad EVAP canister and it runs okay, I've had customers driving 10 years that way. But you don't want to drive one that smells of gasoline vapor because that's dangerous. And if it broke that way, I'd advise changing it right away. Don't take a chance with a fire. Aaron's crutch finger obsession says, 2000 Civic, 304,000 miles. How important is it to do valve adjustments every 15,000 miles like the manual says? Oh, that's just craziness. You don't need to do it every 15,000 miles. I've seen people that only did it every 80 or 90,000 miles on those. I mean, if you want to be an absolute fanatic, you can adjust it every 50, 60,000 miles. They don't wear out that fast if you use quality oil and change the oil and filter every 5,000 miles or so. You don't have to do it that often. That's getting a little bit on the carried away side. You don't need to do it that often. Every 50 or 60 you'd be perfectly fine with modern technology and modern metallurgy. Ham Smith says, I have $3,500. Can I get a reliable car? Do you need more? Well, it depends on where you are, and if you know a guy like me, they can tell you this car's good, that car's bad. Now, let's say you lived in Toronto. You're not going to get much for $3,500. Cars cost more in Canada. I know, I lived there for 4 years. They're very expensive. But let's say you live Houston, Texas, all right? I can get $3,500 cars all day long. There's millions of people living here. Craigslist, there's always somebody who needs money. And people that are stuck in a pinch. If you need thousands of dollars, about the only thing most people have that they can get that is a car. So, could be a perfectly good car, but somebody's in a pinch and they need money, buy their used Toyota, buy their used Honda. just make sure you have a guy like me check it out before you buy it. There are plenty of good used cars out there. Just don't let your eyes be bigger than your pocketbook. Don't go out and buy a $3,500 used Mercedes or a Porsche, or you'll regret it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.